It is a widely held and popular belief among the flat earth ape descendants of this small blue-green planet that the answer to the globe, the curve and everything was 42. Unfortunately, they never really understood the question, nor how to convert metres into kilometres. They got together and decided to stop messing around with eggs and began a massive project. They constructed a huge artificial intelligence called Mitch from Australia to calculate the ultimate question. The programme ran for 10 million long years until the day came for two of their highest luminaries to receive the result of all the calculations. Oakley Thighs and Quantum Fondle were bitterly disappointed when the great computer came to life and finally spoke to them saying,
"Sorry, but I struggled a bit with the triangulation."
Much to the flat earthers' surprise, there was another, more highly evolved life form on the planet that had spent many years trying to explain to the flat earthers where they were going wrong: the Globies. The problem was that the Globies used evidence, logic and occasionally cheese. Generally really useful information that the flat earthers totally failed to understand, as it was not in the form of memes. Eventually, the Globies gave up and decided to leave the Earth in nice spaceships provided by a secret group called NASA. As a twist, they cleverly funded NASA with the flat earthers' tax dollars. Before they left, they produced a final video entitled "So Long and Thanks for All the Fish." In recent weeks, flat earthers have been in all of a kerfuffle about sextants. They seem to think that a sextant proves the Earth is flat and that it can't possibly be a globe. Well, Mr. Mitchell of Australia, if you're going to try and debunk sextants that absolutely require the Earth to be a globe in order to work, then you, my friend, are going to need to know where your towel is. In my previous video, up there, I had fished Mitch by letting him know that when you're doing celestial navigation with a sextant, you're not using triangulation, because he hadn't heard of trilateration. He did a response video here. Of course, what I've done now is I've fished Mitch again. Let's have a quick look at sextants. Sextants are beautiful measuring devices that, with the aid of lenses and mirrors, can enable you to measure the angle between two objects, typically between the horizon and a celestial object, such as the sun or stars. With the telescope, you're typically looking through a half-silvered horizon mirror at the horizon. The light from the celestial object at the top strikes the index mirror, bounces off, and also strikes that horizon mirror so that it can be superimposed. You adjust using the index arm until the two objects are in the right positions. Then you can read the angle off the bottom. Light from objects, when they strike a mirror, will bounce off at the same angle that they struck the mirror. That's the angle of incidence is the same as the angle of reflection. So if it hits the mirror at 45 degrees, it will also bounce off at 45 degrees. That is really important. Well, this is all
tickety-boo.
But if you're using a sextant, you need to make some corrections to allow for things like instrument error and index error and horizon dip and refraction. So flat earthers jumped on this, saying you can't get a line to the horizon. So I thought, having fished Mitch once, it'd be worth fishing him again. So I posted this message: forget all these worries about the horizon and dip. You don't even need to see the horizon. Of course, it didn't take long for Mitch to grab that baited hook, and he produced another video. I'm gonna get you, little fishy. So before we have a look at what Mitch said, I've got a really important message. I want to give massive thanks to all of my supporting members and patrons. Thank you all so very much.
They're not doing triangulation anymore. Maybe it's trilateration, right, Mr. Sensible, you fuckwit?
Well, that's not very nice now, is it, my love? We don't like Mr. Oakley now, do we, my precious?
Sextant use, apparently, according to these dickheads, is requirement or is an antecedent consequent relationship that needs a globe.
You use your tongue prettier than a $20 whore. Shit kicker.
Something that literally is one of the few things that you could not do this on. You couldn't acquire a baseline from it. It is just chanting. You're going to need a globe for that. Will we? No. Every description ever describes how you get a 90 degree to a triangle that you're making with the celestial item and a baseline. That's 2 straight lines. That's flat Earth.
Well, that's quite enough from you, Mr. Kilometres. Let's hear from Mr. from Australia.
Well, there is a great topic at hand at the moment. The number one flat Earth proof, we're calling it. It is the sextant. No, don't be mistaken. You cannot get an angle on a curved surface. So as you can see there, the horizon is viewed directly. And that mirror there is the horizon mirror. As you can see, flat baseline, viewed directly, the horizon.
Yep, but you don't have to look at the horizon at all.
Using a sextant, you're gonna need a horizon for that.
Absolutely categorically not, Mitch. But of course, you don't know that, do you? Because you know nothing about sextants. All you're trying to do with a sextant is establish the angle of elevation of the celestial object. You don't have to use the horizon to do that. And in fact, it's not the angle of elevation that you eventually need. You need 90 degrees minus the angle of elevation, how far that celestial object is off of your zenith, and then you multiply it by 60 to get the number of nautical miles to its GP.
If there's any other ways we can use the sextant, please speak up, Globers.
Oh, I can think of 2 ways, Mitch, right off the bat.
We've got a troll in the chat who says you don't need to see the horizon to use a sextant to get an angle of elevation for the star. Oh really, Mr. Troll? Mr. Sensible in the chat. You need to make a video to show us how we're not using the horizon when using the sextant. Because I've just gone through about 10 citations that all say you need the horizon when using a sextant. What other ways can we use the sextant?
What we're looking for, Mitch, is the angle of the star from our zenith. You can look to the horizon, check the elevation of the star to get angle A, then deduct it from 90, which gives you the value you want. Of course, you could do it the other way round, Mitch. As long as you have the vertical, you can just measure the angle from the zenith directly. Let's see how you can do that. Let me introduce you to the bubble sextant. This is a bubble sextant. Other designs are available. On the left, you can see the additional equipment. At the top is a bubble chamber, which is lit with a small bulb. Inside is a small glass dome with crosshairs on it, liquid and a bubble. The light travels downwards through the beam splitter, bounces off the mirror at the bottom, back up to the beam splitter, and is then directed through the telescope. The bubble apparatus is an equivalent to a carpenter's spirit level, but acting in the vertical plane. As long as the bubble lines up with the crosshairs, you know that that sextant is being held vertically. Light from the star follows the same path it would in a conventional sextant. It bounces off the index mirror, off the horizon mirror, and then forward through the beam splitter to your telescope. So instead of superimposing the star with the horizon to calculate your angle from that horizon, being your horizontal plane, you superimpose the image of the star with a bubble and the crosshairs, being a vertical, and you've calculated the angle from that position. No horizon has been viewed or used. Other designs of bubble sextant are available, operating on pretty much the same principle. This one is an aircraft bubble sextant. Again, you are not viewing or using the actual horizon.
Using a sextant, you're gonna need a horizon for that.
Oh dear, wrong again, Mitch. That must be really stressful. It is a popular and interesting fact that the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Fallacy has lots to say about many things. This, of course, includes stress, something that is of great concern and that many flat earthers find they suffer from, mainly because they keep being debunked and made to look like mindless jerks. For instance, Mitchell and Oakley thighs are sure to suffer great stress when they realise they're about to be debunked using this, a small pan of water. To guard against stress, we have revealed the dangerous object so that flat earthers are pre-warned and may try to relax and rest their sphincters. In order to maintain a modicum of suspense and excitement, we will not reveal at this point exactly how the pan of water is going to make them look stupid and cause them embarrassment. It is always worth trying to relax before a stressful situation. One means is with a nice hot cup of tea. If you don't have tea, then another method is to be pre-stressed. This is the method we will employ today by reading some poetry by Paula Nancy Millstone Jennings of 37 Wasp Villas, Greenbridge in Essex, widely held to be the worst poetry in the universe. It is much worse than Vogon poetry, and in honour of Mitchell has been renamed as Bogan poetry. The black swans lay in the stagnant pool. They lay, they rotted, they turned around occasionally. Bits of flesh dropped off them from time to time and sank into the pool's mire. They also smelt a great deal. And with that, let's return to our tale, where our Antipodean hero Mitchell from Australia is currently in a battle of wits with Mr. Sensible, and deemed it wise to arrive unarmed. So Mitch, I'm sure that you're going to turn around and say, yeah, but that's not an ordinary sextant. Well, you can do it with an ordinary sextant and something like this. In this case, it's an old baking tray with some water in. So how will this work? It works through the wonders of modern technology. Reflection. If a beam of light strikes a mirror at 50 degrees, then it's going to reflect off at 50 degrees. This is what we're going to rely on. Looking back at this first diagram, it seems to look vaguely familiar. We have a beam of light coming from our celestial object. The angle we would be trying to find out is that 50, the angle that the star is from our vertical zenith. We would do that by looking horizontally, getting the angle of altitude, deducting it from 90 to give us that 50. So can we use reflection? Absolutely you can. Light from a celestial object reaches us in parallel rays. So if the light from the sun or a star strikes that water at 40 degrees, it will reflect off at 40 degrees, which means it's 40 degrees below your horizontal. So if instead of sighting the horizon and lining up the celestial object with a horizon, you sight the reflection and line the celestial object up with it, you've got an angle. In this case, it would be 40 plus 40, 80. Divide it by 2, subtract it from 90, and you get 50 degrees, the number that we're after. So I decide I want to sight the sun. It's at the very top of the screen there. I look down towards my horizon, but I can't see it because the Sensible studios are in the way. So instead, I point the sextant down further to the reflecting pool of water. Using the index arm, I then bring the actual sun down towards its reflection and line it up, and then take the reading. So the angle we measure will be double the actual elevation of the sun in this case. The same above as below. Also, in reality, you would have shades on the sextant so we wouldn't have all the glare, and you wouldn't use water because it ripples too much. You can use some other substance, perhaps oil or mercury even, and I came across one guy who used a tray of molasses. So here's a side view. Oh, I haven't got a sextant. We can fix that with CGI. So despite my best efforts, I can't see the horizon, so I can't establish the horizontal, so I can't get the angle to the sun. But I'm clever. I watched Mr. Sensible's video, so now I know all about artificial horizons, and I decide to look down at the reflection in the pan. So the sun shines down on the pan at X degrees, so therefore it reflects off the pan at X degrees. The sun also shines on the index mirror at that same X degrees. We measure the angle between the sun and the reflection by manipulating the index arm, and that is double the angle we want. All we do is half it. You can do it at night. Here's the moon viewed from my garden. You can't see the horizon as hills and trees. Keep panning down, look towards my pond, you see the reflection of the moon. Measure the angle between and you're done. The stars also show up, but not on the camera. So Mitch, for a second time, I've cast a baited hook and you have bitten. You've been landed, gutted and grilled. Mitch, A sextant absolutely relies on a globe. In order to do celestial navigation, you don't use triangulation. You don't have to look at the horizon in order to establish an angle of elevation to a star. You do not know where your towel is. Mitchell from Australia, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Shut up and sit down.